Assalamualaikum. My name is Nurhansa Husna binti Muhammad Narsani. Today I would like to present about the problem and method to overcome inflation and unemployment by Malaysia. Before Malaysia achieved its independence, the economy in Malaysia has been ruled by the invaders who conquered Malaya at the time when they have done a variety of techniques to improve and develop the national economy. To see in more detail related to the history of economic development of the country, there are 4 parts of the stage of development, namely the pre-colonial era, the colonial era, the post-colonial era, and also the post-independence era. In the pre-colonial era, the opening of Malacca by Parameswara was done at the end of the 4th century, has become the starting point for Malaya to engage in trade. Malacca has become the entry port of East-West, and economic activity in the old French government also began to dominate. The port has become a haven of ships from China, the Middle East, and India to do their business in the region. Next is during the colonial era. In this era, colonization undertaken by Dutch, English, Portuguese, and Japanese also almost hit for 400 years and has a lot of impact on the economy of Malaya. However, the colonization carried out by the Dutch and the Portuguese only took 313 years and did not leave much impact on the economy because they did not exploit large amounts of resources other than their focus on the national economy when mining and rubber cultivation became introduced. Another feature is the rapidity of infrastructure. Its providers are closely related to the country's economic activities. The construction of the railway is one of the facilities that have been provided to facilitate the process of delivery of goods in a more orderly manner.
Hello and Assalamualaikum. My name is Husnul Izzati binti Hassan and today I will present about monetary policy in Malaysia. Monetary policy in Malaysia. Bank Negara Malaysia will conduct monetary policy in Malaysia. This action is based on Malaysian Act 2009 Part 5 Section 22 and 23. In order to have a stable monetary, banks are responsible to create and run monetary policy with the objective which is to stabilizing the price according to the development in the economy. In monetary policy, there will be committee of the bank or as known as Monetary Policy Committee. In this committee, they are consisting of the governor and the deputy of governor. The members should not be less than 3 and not more than 7. They have the responsibility to formulate the monetary policy. The Monetary Policy Committee should be appointed by the board. There will be termination in Monetary Policy Committee if the members become insane and cannot thinking well. In a government, there will be 2 types of monetary policy, which are expansionary monetary policy and contractionary monetary policy. The government must apply the right types of monetary policy depending on the economic conditions. First one, expansionary monetary policy. In this situation, the policy aims to increase the total demand until the equilibrium output reach full employment levels. In these conditions, the government can control unemployment in the economy. The next aim is to grow the supply of money in the economy. This method will be used whenever the recession has begun. Secondly, contractionary monetary policy. Contractionary monetary policy is known as tight monetary policy. In this phase, the economy will face excessive inflation. This is used to control the inflation and decrease the money supplies in country's economy. This will be used whenever the economy at the inflationary gap. This is to stabilize the economy and decrease the aggregate demand and aggregate supply. Next, instrument of monetary operation in Malaysia. The first one, uncollateralized direct borrowings through open tenders. This instrument becoming the primary monetary instrument. Next instrument of monetary operation is a repurchase agreement transaction. Repurchase agreement transaction, or as known as repo, is a short-term investment. The investor from the financial institution will sell their assets to another party as per condition that the party will have to repurchase the same assets from the second party. The interest rates in this investment will be the same or lesser than the money market at this point. The bank use repo transaction to provide liquidity to the banking institution. That's all from me.
Assalamualaikum. My name is Darshamila binti Abu Jalil. I will explain about the fiscal policy in Malaysia. Fiscal policy means by which a government adjusts its spending level and tax rate to monitor and influence a nation's economy. Fiscal policy or budget policy is government measure to change government spending and tax structure in an effort to influence the level of aggregate spending in the economy. In Malaysia, in fiscal policy is designed to serve both stabilizations and development goals in the meeting key objectives such as growth, equity, macroeconomic stability, reform and restructuring, as well as pressing sectoral and regional development. Instrument of fiscal policy. In this instrument of fiscal policy, they have two main, which is, firstly is the revenue collections and expenditures that we know as spending. Government taxations or revenue collections. The taxation is the act of imposing taxes and the fact of paying taxes. Service tax is not imposed on the service charged, but on the cost of goods or service that they provided. Next, expenditure or spending. The expenditure was an act of spending or paying out. Government spending refers to public expenditure on goods and services and is a major component of the GDP. Government spending policy like setting up the budget target, adjusting the taxations, increase public expenditure and public works are very effective tool in influencing economic growth. Then, type of fiscal policy. Type of fiscal policy has three. Firstly is neutral, second is expansionary, third is contractionary. Firstly, neutral. This type of policy is usually undertaken when an economy is in equilibrium. In this instance, government spending is fully funded by tax revenue, which has a neutral effect on the level of economic activity. For example, a poll tax levied at a flat rate on all vehicles passing through a toll gate is not distortionary in nature. Fiscal neutrality can be achieved through a balanced budget where the total revenue are equal to or exceed the expenses. Second, expansionary. This type of policy is usually undertaken during recessions to increase the level of economic activity. In this instance, the government spends more money than it collects in tax. Expansionary fiscal policy is used to kickstart the economy during a recession. It boosts aggregate demands, which in turn increase output and employment in the economy. Third is contractionary. This type of policy is undertaken to pay down government debt and to cap inflation. In this case, government spending is lower than tax revenue. A contractionary fiscal policy is implemented when there is demand pull, inflation. It can also be used to pay off unwanted debt. In pursuing contractionary fiscal policy, the government can decrease its spending, raise tax, or pursue a combination of the two.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Hani Zafira binti Osman and I will proceed to unemployment. Unemployment is the amount of a labor that is not used by various economic sector to produce goods and services in a country. Unemployment is a very important problem for every country, especially developing country with large population. High unemployment means that manpower resources and financial are not being used efficiently. There are various type of unemployment or problem that are frictional unemployment, cyclical unemployment, seasonal unemployment, and structural unemployment. In Malaysia, we have all of these types of unemployment. First, we will go to frictional unemployment. Frictional unemployment is the period between work and the unemployment worker when the employee voluntarily to quit their job to look for a better job and a new environment. The problems in this unemployment are mismatch of job and too picky to work. This usually occur on fresh graduate. Okay, the second unemployment is cyclical unemployment. Cyclical unemployment is also called as deficiency demand unemployment. Okay, cyclical unemployment happens when the economy is in recession. The problem is economic demand is not enough to provide employment for all those in need of the employment. As an example, the Great Lockdown and the coronavirus that happened caused recession in Malaysia, but not even in Malaysia, but it caused globally recession. Now we will move to method to overcome unemployment in Malaysia. Firstly, education and work training. Education and work training is one of the method. Work training and education given by the unemployment system in industry will help to re-enter the workforce. Often these services are either free or available at a reduced cost and allow the employee to obtain the required training while obtaining your benefits. For next method is rising the minimum wage. Increasing the minimum wage means that higher earning will improve the overall standard of living of minimum wage workers by providing them with more appropriate level of income to cope with increases in the cost of living. Finally, the last method is cut businesses' payroll taxes for new hire. By letting families or corporations retain more of the income they raise, tax cuts generate jobs. The theory is that more products can be bought by customers, thereby stimulating demands, and businesses are using funds from tax cuts to recruit much needed unemployed.
Inflation can be defined as the continuous rise in general price levels in an economy. An increase in the general price level can be interpreted as an increase in the average price of goods and services in an economy. Generally, inflation has two problems, which is demand pull inflation and cost push inflation. Demand pull inflation is the upward pressures on prices that follows a shortage in supply. This problem causes by an increase in aggregate demand because of increasing demand for services and goods. This demand pull inflation will occur when the economy is soaring or experiencing full employment levels. The average inflation rate for Malaysia stayed 2.9% per annum historically. Although Malaysia has gone through the low inflation rate when compared to global rise overall for 15 years back, but it could face the high inflation in 3 periods. Cost push inflation is the increase in the general price level caused by the increase in production costs, while the economy is experiencing full employment levels. This may be due to the natural disaster or increase in input prices. The main sector that account in the Malaysia Inflation Index is food price, which is about 31%, has increased 2.2% compared with last year. Besides that, Malaysia government decided to subsidy rationalisation to reduce the fiscal deficit and financial burden. This included daily necessary goods such as bread, sugar, diesel, petrol and liquefied petroleum gas. In overcoming the problem of inflation that has been explained, there are several effective methods in controlling inflation. The method to overcome inflation is direct control measure, monetary policy and fiscal policy. Direct control measure is a measure that directly imposes upon the manufacturing, pricing and distribution of specific goods, in contrast with an implicit that can affect the economy in its totality and exact goods only incidentally. In implementing this direct control measure, there are appropriate steps to succeed in this method, that is price control and rationing. Price control means fixing a higher limits for the cost of indispensable user goods. There are the limit costs set up by law, and everyone who charging more than this cost can be punished by law. In Malaysia, to overcome inflation, government choose to use monetary policy method.
This policy is able to reduce the supply of money in the economy. Therefore, the total expenditure and general price level can be reduced. There are few ways in order to apply this monetary policy, which is increase discount rate, increase interest rate, increase required ratio, and make an open market operation. Increasing in discount rate can help in increasing the cost of loans, and loans borrowed by commercial banks will also increase. Bank Negara Malaysia organised monetary policy based on Section 22 of Central Bank of Malaysia Act 2009 by influencing the level of interest rate. During the peak of economic overheating and when the risk of inflation is high, monetary policy will be increased by withdrawing funds from the banking system and raising interest rates. Fiscal policy method can help to reduce inflation when the government increase tax rate and decrease its expenditure. Malaysia surveys on explicit fiscal policy instruction that forbids an operating deficit in any given year. After government lowers its spending on goods and services, there will be less burden on price level. This can help people who are less able to buy daily items. Furthermore, in this method, the increase in personal savings can help in reducing inflation. The personal savings can help them to save more as emergency money. But due to the rising cost of living, not all citizens can afford to do such things. Because the constraint of life in buying a necessity as well as the rising price level, making it difficult for them to continue to make personal savings.
As for the conclusion, based on the establishment of Malaysia, it has shown that this country has been conquered by greedy and cruel foreign powers. To restore and reclaim the dignity of the Malays, the Malay community had the time to work hard to regain the land, vigor and sovereignty, that is by doing a variety of ways even though they would sacrifice life and support their own. This struggle is finally joined by other races who also want to restore sovereignty to uphold a country that wants independence. So that's all for our presentation today. Thank you.